Time to paint Hive Fleet Leviathan, as seen in the Space Marine 2 video game by Games Workshop. Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be moving away from some of the other painting projects I have, and today we're going to focus on a Tyranid. This is obviously been inspired by the recent release of Space Marine 2, so I thought maybe a video like this might be useful to some people out there that are just starting their Warhammer journey, or should I say Warhammer addiction, to getting models painted up to a decent enough standard. So here we have a Von Ryan Leaper. It's like a mini Lictor, if you're familiar with the game. And this guy was first built with obviously I use super glue, but most people use plastic glue, and then all the mold lines were also removed with a knife, a craft knife, and then he was undercoated in brain matter beige by the army painter. I gave him one spray over, left it about an hour, and then gave him a second coat just to get good coverage and a decent base to get started with. So without further ado, let us get into painting Hive Fleet Leviathan. So to start off, we're going to go for the sort of base colour, the skin tones, and for this we are going to mix contrast paint Volupus Pink, 1 part with about 6 or 7 parts technical contrast medium. Give it a good mix, which I've done here, in your palette, and then this is just going to go all over the model, maybe not over the armor plates, but over the rest of it. So you can be quite liberal here. Don't worry too much about being too thick, because we will be going back after the model is coated, before we go to the next step. We will be drying off our brush and soaking up the majority of the paint. So I will get this fully covered and we'll be back shortly. Okay, so this is what it should look like. This is still very wet, so what we're going to do is dry off our brush, and then we're going to just draw up and soak up some of that excess paint, because we don't want it pooling, because we only want this in the recesses really, if possible. And we will be going over with a dry brush to bring out that white, so we want to just go over it, keep drying our brush and soaking up the majority of it. You can also, if you've missed sections, you can also bring the paint up and sort of fill in other sections that you might have missed, but just take 2-3 minutes just to correct this, because we don't want areas too dark with the pink color, so we want it quite a subtle pink. So yeah, just take your time, do this. For this I'm using quite a big brush. It's good at soaking up, and it's also good at washing and shading the mini with the contrast. So I'll get this finished and we'll be back for the next step. Okay, so this is how it's looking so far. Next step, we're going to start dry brushing. So for this we're going to use Flayed One Flesh to start with. We're going to use a makeup brush. I bought this from Boots. You can get it from any other sort of pharmaceutical companies. That's Cell Makeup. And for this, we're just going to take our time and just start very lightly dragging our brush across the surface. We want to make sure we get as much of the paint off our brush as possible for this, because we want to keep the pinks in the recesses here. So just take your time with this section, just getting it right. And I'll get it done and we'll be back. Okay, so next step, we're going to go in with Praxeti White, which is a dry paint by Citadel. So don't be alarmed if it looks like that. It's meant to. These paints are great for dry brushing. So again, like we did in the previous step, get some on our brush, get the majority off on a bit of paper, and we're focusing this more to the upper sections of the model, like so. We don't want to be too bright white on this. We just want to catch like the sharpest edges, like so. Hopefully you can see that all right. Do a little bit in the middle there, but not too much. As I said, we want to focus mostly on top. I'll get that finished and we'll be back. Okay, so next step on painting these Von Ryan Leapers, or Hive Fleet Leviathan in general, is Dark Oath Flesh, and this is going to be on all the sinewy bits between like the limbs and stuff. So we're looking at these bits here, and these bits on the legs, like so. Then these bits here as well on the sides, on the talons and stuff. And then I'm also going to do a coat of it on these tentacles around the mouth. So yeah, do that, and then you should end up with something that looks like this. I'm currently painting up the Combat Patrol Insidious Infiltrators, so I'm doing a lot of these at the minute, and this is a really quick technique. So you can see I've got it here, and here. Tentacles, those bits under there, them bits. Yeah, so I mean, I managing to power through this Combat Patrol quite quick. So yeah, get that done and we'll be back for the next step. Okay, so probably the final bit of like the squishy flesh before we move on to the chitinous parts of the model. So for this we're going to go in with pure Volupus Pink, and this is just going to be in the little, I don't know what they're called, they're like little vent bits. I know vent's not the right word, but it's the only way I can explain them. But it's these bits here. For this you want a really fine brush. You don't want to go too thick a brush, because it will spill out. Just take your time and you should have no issues. Remember the underside of arms and stuff. They're mostly found on legs and arms, so just take your time and you should have no issue. Okay, so next step we're going to start on the chitinous armor plates and the scythes and stuff. So for this we're going to go in with Black Legion. This is a really good contrast paint because it can be slapped on straight from the pot. No need to thin it down or anything. And it may need 2 coats. I've noticed a bit of difference between different pots of this. Like I had a pot of this that recently ran out that I only really needed 1 coat and it seemed thicker. And this one sometimes needs 2 coats, but it's still such a really good paint. I highly recommend this one. I've never tried any of the speed paints by Army Painter, but I hear good things about them. So speed paints and contrast paints are quite good. So for this we want to target all the chitinous parts, so like these sides at the top. Do the bits on the head here, the legs here, the hooves, the feet, these little stabby spikes at the back, and all the chitinous bits and the side and talons. Once that's done, you'll have something that probably looks a little bit like this one. As I said, I'm going for a Combat Patrol here, and this is probably the longest bit. So I've done 8 of these chaps so far. This is the 9th, and 1 Neurolictor, and then this has probably taken the longest time out of all the steps so far. But like I said, just take your time. If it needs 2 coats, just slap another coat on, and yeah, just take your time and yeah, just crack on. Okay, so now the black's been put down. Next we're going to go on to his scythes and his pointy bits. So for this we're going to go in with Corn Red, and the technique we're going to use here is I suppose a sort of dry brushing. So we're going to get Get it down on our bit of tissue, but we still want to leave a fair amount on our brush. We want to make the brush head flat like that. And we're just going to use this to drag it along, like so. This will catch all the highest edges. We don't want to do it completely red. We want to leave some black in the recesses. So I'll get this done and we'll be back. Okay, so next up is Mephiston Red, and we're going to use a very similar technique to what we did with the Corn Red, this time more sparingly. So you want to still see some of that Corn Red underneath, so we want more off this brush this time, and we're just going to focus more to the edges and to the ends of the sides and stuff, sides and talons. Like so. Then when it dries up a bit, go over it again, and that will give you a more deeper red. Focusing more on the upper side, the parts that are receiving the majority of the light this time. Yeah, just take your time and you should have no issues. And final part for the reds is Wild Rider Red. This is an orangey red, which is a really nice highlight. And for this, we're going to use a wet palette here, and this wet palette is by well, it's Army Painter wet palette. So we're going to get some on our brush, thin it down a little bit of water, and then we're just going to. This is going to be like an edge highlighting phase. We're just going to drag it along the edges just to pick out the sharpest details. Use the edge of your brush. You want a smaller brush here. You can do all of the reds here if you want, but I usually just tend to focus towards the bits that will catch the light. So I'm not so bothered about like the underneath of this scythe. I'm not going to bother with. Just the bits that are catching the light the most. Let's say. Got to imagine the lights. Picture where the light's coming from, and then do it from there. I'll get this finished, and we'll be back. Okay, so we are getting there now. So the next step is we're going to do the kiting a bit more. So we've got this nice black base coat. Next paint we're going to go in with is Nagaroth Night. So we want to get our wet palette, give the paint a good shake, get a little bit on our brush, and thin it down slightly with a little bit of water. And then we're just going to put this all on the black areas. And you can see it at the moment, but when it dries, it becomes a very dark purple, especially because it's over the black. And that will make it it'll be more of a blacky purple, and then it will be good for highlighting. So you should end up with something just a bit like this. It's very subtle, the purple on there. It might not even show up very well on the camera, but you can see it if you squint hard enough. You can see the purple, but that's the effect we're sort of looking for here. Okay, so the next step on the kiting is a dry brush. So for this, we're going to use a Xerxes purple, and we're going to use two brushes for this. You can see they've already got paint on them because I've just done all these guys. But let me show you how to do this. We use the larger brush for the larger areas, and the smaller brush for those harder to reach areas, because we don't want to get any contamination on the other parts of the middle. So for this, we're going to get this on our brush, and we're going to drag upwards, catching the sharpest parts of the kiting, like so. You can probably get this under here as well, like that. You don't have to go mad, just lightly brush. Then we switch to the smaller brush for those harder to reach places. So again, you want to get as much off the brush as possible, and then sort of drag it like so. I'll finish getting this done and we'll be back. Okay, so next we're going to go sort of onto the highlighting of the chitin. For this we're going to use a Slaanesh Grey. And we want quite a thin brush here. And what we're going to do is get some on our brush and on our wet palette. And then we're going to use small sort of stroking, well, motions here to get like little lines like so. And this is going to be quite time consuming because you want to do this on all the edges of the chitin. See that there? And this is, yeah, like I said, it's going to be quite time consuming because you've got quite a lot to do. But we want something that ends up looking a little bit like this. So like I said, this bit's going to be a bit time consuming, so again, just take your time and you shouldn't have any too much issue with that. Okay, so we're very nearly there now. Only a few more steps left. Next up, we're going to do his eyes. So for this, we want Avalan Sunset. And this is just going to be, depending on the model, more eyes, less eyes, no eyes. So for this chap, we've got 3 on each side. 1, 2, 3. Just take your time. You want as much control of this as possible. So I will get that done on this chap and we'll be back. Okay, and for the shading for the eyes, we want Cassandora Yellow, and this is going to give it like a an orangey sort of tint to it. So we don't want a lot on our brush because we don't want to overpower it, but just get a little bit on and then go to our eyes and just so it goes into the recesses like so. That. And leave that to dry. Okay, very nearly there now. So next up is Skeleton Horde, and this is going to be for any teeth on this chap. There's only a few on the Von Ryan Leapers here, and they're just at the front. This is one of the benefits of painting Hive Fleet Leviathan this way. You've still got quite a lot of white on there, so this contrast paint, Skeleton Horde, will sit nicely into the recesses. There you go, that's so. And the final step, not counting the base, is we want little pinpricks of Black Legion on the eyeballs, just for the eyes. So you want a nice thin brush here, like so, and just on the tip. And then this, we just want to aim it center of each eye. If you do like a slit as well, it looks more menacing. Like so. I'll just tidy that up and we'll be back. And there you have it. So obviously paint the base however you want to see fit. But yeah, I feel like this is a decent tabletop standard, maybe even above tabletop standard, and it's quite easy. Let me know if it's quite easy to follow. But yeah, there you have it, Hive Fleet Leviathan, as seen in the Space Marine 2 video game. That's what inspired me to paint these up. I do have old Tyranids of Hive Fleet Leviathan from many years back, but quite enjoyed picking up the brush and painting these chaps up again. So if you do like the content, please leave me a like and subscribe. Alternatively, if you would like to support the channel, I will have a PayPal linked in the description. Anything on there will go into improving the quality of the channel. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.